Well, welcome to episode 9 of season 3 of C.A.R.s, Coffee, and Christ. This is the weekly podcast of Cross Automotive Royale, our shop here located in Mounds, Oklahoma. It's right outside of Tulsa Metroplex, and I am your host, Ross Turner. I serve as the corporate chaplain here at C.A.R. And this season, we've been working through several kind of key themes. I think 3 that have come to mind are our faith at work. We've been talking about Christian entrepreneurship, and also excellence in branding, and talking a lot about core values of what equals good branding. But today we're just going to talk about cars. Today we're just going to talk about cars. We're going to talk about restoring cars, which is really the business side of what we do here, and talk particularly about the philosophy behind restoring cars. There's a lot of different reasons to restore vehicles out there, and so we're going to talk in general about that, but specifically show cars versus drivers. Like, what's the goal for us, and maybe the goal in the industry, and kind of talk why we kind of fall on the side of the driver's side and why we're focusing on that. So we got a full house today. We got some new folks with us. We've got Riley over there in the corner. We have Alan with us as well. And we've got Hunter also. We're excited to have you 3 with us today, joining some veteran podcasters, JJ, with us here. And of course, our co-owner, co-founder, Joshua King as well. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. And we'll kind of jump into maybe just like a real general question. But again, I'm a novice. I see cars, I drive cars, I see them getting worked on all the time. I've seen the restoration process here and there. But I think it'd just be good to ask the question, what's the desire behind restoring vehicles? Like, why do people want to do that? Just to kind of start there, what's the impetus behind that? What's the drive behind that? Because there's, I think, a lot of reasons probably behind that. So who'd like to start off by just kind of answering what kind of makes this an industry, restoring vehicles? Because there are a lot of shops that do it.
I'll start us off.
Josh?
So one, I think old cars are cooler than new cars.
Yeah.
In a lot of sense. There's some new cars that are pretty cool, but I think there's like if you're into those older vehicles, you're into those, there's a passion around the design of those cars, the uniqueness of it. There was a whole culture that was pretty awesome in the younger generations. And I think in the 70s, when it was like thriving, that really launched into car culture and created car culture, when people started modifying traditional vehicles, and those were new cars at the time, but they were modifying them. And then over time, that's both in new vehicles and in old, but I personally, I think a lot of the older vehicles have a uniqueness. It's something happens around 30 years old on a car that it almost seems new again to, your eyes. Yeah. And so there's a big push in that direction. Now that goes in a lot of different places. Sometimes it's just out of necessity, but I think the general sentiment around the older vehocles is that newer cars, there's not a lot of restoration there. It's more modification. Yeah. Right? So that's a whole other, industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great, Josh. Anyone else? And why are you all in restoring cars? I mean, instead of doing a body shop work or something else, what draws you to wanting to be in restoring vehicles in that industry? So anyone else? Jerry?
Well, a lot of people restore cars because it's like a rite of passage. That's something that they grew up with their kinfolks, their father, grandfather, mother. My mom restored cars and built engines with my grandpa. My dad the same. So to me, I want to restore my own vehicle and be able to ride alongside my family with their vehicles. So it's it's special to people who want to restore for that aspect of it anyway. Yeah. And a lot of people can't restore these newer vehicles. They don't want you working on them, so a lot of people want to kind of get away from that, where you're kind of restricted from even doing any type of work on them. So this kind of gives you a freedom as well.
Yeah. That's some fantastic insight. I didn't think about that in that way, because newer cars are, like you said, there's less opportunity to do it, not just the age, but the opportunity of it. Right. And then also the rite of passage. Again, that's just how some people grow up, doing work on cars as part of their family. And it's just something that's kind of put into you as something you want to do. That's fantastic. Anyone else? Why restore cars? Why work in restoration vehicles instead of some other kind of part of the industry? Anyone else?
Coming from someone who just recently went from working on more newer modern cars, you almost spend more time like looking at a computer trying to figure it out than actually getting in there and working with your hands to figure out something that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's they don't build them like they used to.
No, that's fantastic. That's a great thought. Is that like Jay was saying, there's kind of some barriers to doing that with modern cars, whereas there's freedom and creativity with older ones too. And that's a great answer, Hunter. Again, it's very helpful for me to know why, because there's a reason the industry exists, and it's just kind of know in general why that's the case. But again, there's different ways that people restore cars for different purposes. And even whether in a rural area like this, there's a car show down the street every October, and then of course everyone knows about Starbird in February. There's a lot of car shows, but they're not all created equal. There are different reasons for the car shows, and some are for show, and some are just because it's a personal passion, or some just want to sell a driver to somebody. I had a friend in Lubbock, Texas, who was working on a Willys in 1942 just because he loved the vehicle. He wasn't trying to show off. He did eventually sell it, but it was just his own personal passion, and he would take it from every car show around. But I think everyone has different reasons for it. So, in your view, why are we kind of, not focusing on car shows per se, or showy cars per se? And maybe what's the focus of that industry, if anyone wants to chime in, because we're obviously more on the driver's side, but what's behind kind of the show car industry, because that's a big part of the restoration business.
Now you're talking religion.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's what I'm trying to say.
Got like there's the full. It seems, and I'm summarizing like what I've seen and why we've made the gesture. And I'm going to try not to like inject too much opinion here, but when you're building show cars, it's all about the amount of time that you spend on it. I mean, it's a factor of time. Sometimes some of these cars, it's 1,000 hours, 1,600 hours, 2,000, 3,000 hours of work.
Yeah.
And so it's microns of difference to try to get to perfection. Perfection or detail. So like if you look at the lowrider community, the filigree that's now on the vehicles, the builds, the amount of time in the paint is tremendous, right? Like you're talking about a 500-hour just paint job on those lowriders. And then you've got the metal work, you've got everything else. It's kind of a show of skill and a show of time and a show of money in a way. Because some of those you can't even get to these builds without just an obscene amount of money that go into some of these cars. Yeah. And so, but then you've got the rest of us. And what I really wanted to see was more of these cars on the road. What I love seeing is like Alan drives up in a really cool car. I didn't have that cool of a car when I was in high school, like because of its uniqueness and because of because he put his own hands on it. And then you've got other vehicles where like, I love seeing people drive cars, but if you build too nice of a car, what I've seen is they don't use it. Yeah. They just kind of like, it just sits in their driveway. Or what really disgusts me is there's like these guys, these Saudi princes and other people that have like whole rooms full of unused, beautiful vehicles that have been restored to the nines that are now getting dust and getting corroded in these places and never got to be and live their purpose. Yeah. I want to build stuff that people want to use. And there's a range that you can kind of be in that gets you something that you can love for your lifetime. Like you were saying, drive alongside your family. Yeah. But that's a range of vehicle. But if you spend too much money, you'll never want to drive that car because you don't want to ruin it. And so there's like this range I want to get into that allows people something that they can really be proud of and really enjoy and really feel like I got my dream car in that space, but not too expensive where it's going to just get parked in some rich guy's garage. That's kind of want to not do that. So how do we do that? And how do we empower younger people to want to build more and then get out and do more and take a project or a car that they can get and then do something cool to it, jump into a junkyard, swap out an engine, grab some components yourself. How can we innovate into that space and create some inspiration by putting, these will still be great cars. We're doing awesome paint jobs out there. Like we're about to do a Lamborghini paint on a 77 Corvette, that is typically not super popular in the Corvette ranges, but when you put Lamborghini paint on it, it's going to be awesome. And then we're going to there's a heritage design we're doing on another one that is really, really cool. It was in a magazine at its time, and we're going to refresh it back to new. And when you see that, people are like, wow. And they will pass up a really expensive Porsche to go talk to the guy that's driving that Corvette, and I've seen it. It's real. It's just more character. It's more interesting, and it doesn't have to be a ton of money to go and do that. And so we're having to design more affordable cars is actually harder. It takes more innovation. It takes more skill. And so that's what we're seeking out. That's what we put in our team, and I think that's what we're hoping to inspire is other people to build again. A younger generation. It's in our mission statement. A younger generation to build again.
And I've got one more question to piggyback on that. Before I get to that one, though, I think it'd be kind of fun to ask maybe our new podcasters with us, along with JJ as well. Like, if you could drive a cool old car and have it restored, I mean, what would you drive? I mean, if the money thing was not the barrier, because I think that's what Joshua and the company is wanting to pursue, is to try to eliminate that barrier to make it smaller, so that people that are younger can have access to cooler cars. My first car was a Dodge Neon, and I got it wrecked because of some person driving like a wild person, but I didn't miss it. I'm grateful for it, but I didn't miss that car. But it would be amazing to have a cool car. So if you all could have one of those, or do have one of those, I mean, I'd love to hear about it, because I think that's kind of the goal we have, is to put cooler cars into younger generation's hands and feet, So what would you all share? What's your thoughts about what would be a cool car to drive, or a classic car you'd want to own?
Chevy 2 Nova, the rowdy small block in it.
Oh, wow. Color, what would the color be?
I know it's kind of plain, but I've always been a fan of silver.
All right. That's
chrome trim.
That's awesome.
We got one out there. It's going to look good.
That's great, Hunter. Anyone else? I mean, again, this is just a wish list that doesn't have money attached, but again, the goal is, I think, trying to help conceptualize for people kind of this is what we're trying to achieve, So
67 Chevette.
Yeah, Chevette. All right. Color?
Probably be like a dark forest green with like some gold metallic.
Man,
that's a good comment.
That's a nice. Yeah, that sounds good, JJ. Riley, Alan, what do y'all think? What would be your call?
I have this 1966 Impala I want to
Cool.
restore.
Wow.
Cool.
It needs floor pans and truck pans and transports.
Yeah, but you've got it just in the wings waiting, right?
So you already got it.
You've already got it. Okay,
Just gotta build it.
that's awesome.
It's cool.
That's awesome. Riley, what about you? What would you say? Again, no option.
Probably his truck.
His truck.
His truck? That's what I'm saying. It's a cool truck.
Now what is
It's
that? I don't know what it is.
79 Chevy short bed.
Cool.
That's
Awesome.
that's the truck every guy in America wants right now. The Chevy, the square body, short bed. It's exactly what everybody wants.
Well, that's kind of we're different generations. It's just good to hear. It's good to hear that, because I think that's kind of what the company's trying to reach with the restoration work and getting people to imagine. Again, when I was young, there was no imagination. I mean, and again, my family didn't grow up with nice cars or anything, so it's all functional. But it's just cool when you're like actually asking people what they would want in a classic cool car.
Ross, what about you? What about you? You got to pick an old car, and it can't be.
It would be like one of those mid '60s Camaros, Or I've always liked the Chevelles too. What's the 75 that you have? Is it called? What is it in the garage that we have? It's the light.
The convertible.
It's like the convertible. Yeah, it's like a Corvette version. That's a pretty awesome car.
Yeah.
To be honest.
We'll bring it up here.
Yeah.
I unfairly picked my favorite car over and over again.
I was gonna say,
just to start this off, I was like,
Yeah.
I was just trying to pump myself up about this new phase, which we have a lot of C3 Corvettes, which is my. That was the first car I built with my dad.
Yeah.
So when I built those, it was a 1978 Corvette. We got it for cheap out of Texas, towed it back, drained its battery right as soon as we got back. We didn't know much of anything, so we just basically did seats, steering wheel, and I was paying gas, lawn money to get any one part. So I would basically mow a bunch of yards, get one part, and then I was eventually tried to find the dash, which I just didn't have the money for at the time. And I just kind of vowed to do it again one day. Wow. So we're kind of on a sprint of running through those. But what I'd love to do is grab these cars, the cars that the team wants to go build, and then go build those, right? And next. And so after we, release these into the wild again and get people driving them down the road, we'll just pick some cars that people want to work on and do fun things. Yeah. One thing I'm really excited about what we can do is we show cars everything has to be perfect, so everything becomes predictable and becomes an equation. I don't like that. It doesn't allow for as much creativity as you think. If you want to do some wild, cool paint job that like is awesome and trending, you can't really do that on a car that you're going to spend $300,000 to $400,000 on.
Yeah.
But we can do that. We can do all kinds of unique things on engines. We can try things out. Hey, I have this idea for a certain type of turbo, or I want to do I want to try this new process on X. I want to do experimental engines. Right?
Yeah.
Eventually, when we get the time,
Yeah.
we're going to do all kinds of experimental engines.
Yeah.
I want us to be able to be creative again. But that in this range, you can do that all day long. Whereas if it's too much money you're invested, everybody's like, oh, I need the return. It becomes a financial equation about how much is it going to be. People get constrained on time. They're worried about these other things. This allows us to just do way more fun and creative things and to do things on vehicles we actually like and enjoy, and others will too. So
it's awesome. It's just good to hear everyone's kind of imagination run a little bit, because again, I think that's the difference is between predictability and perfection to more creativity and imagination. And I think that's what made cars fun in those eras.
Yeah.
Instead of like an assembly line, which was the initial personal vehicle, was assembly line, right? This is different. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to capture more than nostalgia, but a relationship to the vehicle. Whereas I think with the modern vehicle, there's almost no relationship to the vehicle. Everything's kind of self-sufficient in a way. So it's definitely kind of capturing nostalgia in a vehicle, right? But also there's a sense of what America is in those things too, that I think we're trying to say, this is better.
It's funny because the guy that stacked 32 turbos at SEMA this year did not think what the resale value was on that vehicle.
Yeah.
And I like that guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of that guy. I mean, it looked ridiculous out of there was no hood.
Yeah.
You can't put...
What was on Dodge?
I forget what it was, but he basically stacked the front and he found a way to like reroute the exhaust back in a loop situation.
Wow.
And they kind of just looked like a
kept going.
series of curlicues on the front of this thing.
Wow.
And there's diminishing returns when you do that from a business standpoint. But it's pretty awesome that he did it. But he definitely wasn't thinking about resale.
No.
He wasn't thinking about the perfection of the bumper at that point.
Yeah.
And that was not the point.
Yeah.
The point was, I did something no one else was going to do, and it was really fun and exciting to do it. And it allows us to do a lot more of that kind of thing here. So
it sounds like to me from kind of what you all are talking about is that I think, in a restoration shop that's focusing more on drivers, it's a little bit more of a laboratory in a sense, you know what I mean? Instead of an assembly factory. And I think even in those kind of big showy models, it's still, even with all the fanfare of it, it's still just really a factory in the end. So I love kind of hearing that it's a different approach to restoration, even though it's still in the same space in the industry.
And you get a lot more, I think, out of the day, because if you're doing something to perfection, if you got 500 hours in a journey to do one thing, like a paint job, you just see micro improvements every day versus like, I knocked this out, I got to do this, now I'm going to try this over here. And the experience that you get is really quick and fast. If we find out that an engine isn't good, I might be doing a swap next week. Like your days move a lot quicker versus spending micro details on trying to make sure all the tubing is right to get. Now it's fun, and I think there are some things that are like artistry does come out, but they're two different things, right? And so I think this allows us to experiment at a faster rate, which is always my hope. I've always viewed that room out there, the shop, as a laboratory.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that seems to be what kind of how we're casting the shop. It's really more of a laboratory than it is a body shop or some kind of factory assembly line. It's really more of a creative space. I think, and again,
that's the hope.
The hope is also to kind of build vehicles with people that have an interest in vehicles instead of just kind of picking vehicles out per se. That's still appropriate, but I think it's cool to kind of say, hey, I'd like that, but maybe we can find that and build that, restore that together. Well, I'll kind of finish with this. Last night I was driving to go see some friends that don't live too far from me. And they live in like one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Tulsa. And as I was driving, interestingly enough, I saw classic cars, I think, on every other lot as I was driving through that neighborhood. But interestingly enough, they were all driving models, it looked like. They seemed to be driven, not just for show. So they were on like the side of the streets, not in the driveway, so you could tell people were driving them. But I thought that captured my interest because it shows that there are a lot of people that want that. but these were wealthy people. You know what I mean? And I live a few blocks away from that, so I'm not wealthy like them. But I've never envisioned. I don't see any vehicles like that in my neighborhoods. None.
Yeah.
Zilch. And so I think it's kind of trying to, how can we bridge that gap? Because our vision is somewhere in the middle. Because most people are like, let me find a functional car that works for me in this moment, or let me pour all this money into this thing, and which very few people can afford. But we're trying to say somewhere in the middle we want to reach. So how do we bridge the gap, I guess, is the question.
And let me illuminate, I don't even know if everyone here knows this, but we're about to launch an application as we get our vehicles finished. Mm-hmm. So as vehicles get finished, we're going to launch a membership. So one way to do this is to separate ownership from experience, from access. Yeah. What a lot of people just want is access to these vehicles, to either use them or have them. So we'll have a membership and a points, so that people can rent classic cars, use them if they are a member, and have access to different kinds of vehicles. Yeah. It is a way that someone who doesn't have their own garage, someone who's maybe in an apartment or somewhere else, can experience classic car culture and actually get access to vehicles. No one does this in the world. I'm excited about that. Yeah, I'm very, very excited about that. And we'd have basically a classic car club here, but you can then have access to the vehicles. Yeah. And then, you could buy it. If you fall in love with that vehicle, buy it. But if you can't afford that, maybe you can afford an experience, or maybe it's your wedding day and you want a classic car to drive away with, or maybe it's something that is, you're riding Route 66 and you dreamt of it your whole life and you want to grab a classic car along the way. Whatever that reason is, we're trying to remove the barriers and create innovative ways that people can experience classic cars. Yeah. And so that is something we're gonna launch here in the next month. We'll have an app for that. It'll all be managed there, and you can reserve your vehicle online. And so we're really excited about that, and other innovations like this, that we can do different things to allow people to experience classic cars, and again, lower the barrier to entry to experience something different. So
I think what you're saying is, we talk a lot about this, saying we're a disruptive company. This is not what anyone does. It's essentially like a rent to own, or just a rent for its own sake.
Kind of rent to own.
Kind of a rent to own plan, but classic cars rent to own. Yeah. Or like you said, splitting the monthly payment amongst people that want to use the vehicle in a way. Yeah. So I think that's a community, kind of an incredible kind of vision to say, hey, we want to give more access to people. And again, I think from my own experience, there's this massive gap between having an imagination that you could drive. Because again, I grew up with basically like European cars. People but we're all saying American cars from what I'm hearing here. Yes. What I'm hearing very clearly here is all American cars, which is great, because I think there's something to that, to kind of recapture that. And it does begin with younger generations. And older generations are definitely doing that, but it's out of the expense range for most of us. Yeah. So I think this route, along with having an appetite for it, and again, that seems to be the key of reaching people with appetite for it, but also filling need too. Well, thanks so much for watching today's episode of Cars, Coffee, and Christ, the podcast of Cross Automotive Royale here in Mounds, Oklahoma. And if you were helped by today's discussion, we hope that you'll like and subscribe to the podcast. We also hope that you'll go check us out online at crossautomotiveroyale.com. You're going to find there two things. One, if you're interested in car work and restoration, there are several ways that you can connect with us online at our website. If you're also interested in ministry work and partnerships, particularly to the car community, but also to minister to others in general, you'll find on that same website an additional website, carsfromchrist.org. And there you'll find our car clinic, opportunities to support you if you're a member of one of our member churches, and also find ways to donate vehicles or finances to help us donate vehicles to families in need around the Tulsa Metroplex. So hope that you will connect with us, subscribe to our channel, and hope to hear from you soon. Until next time.